start from scratch to see how this works, right? So I'm not going to save this file, and nobody is going to get this file. So it is up to you, right? And if you are enrolling for the Indian engineering course, this is just a very small, kind of thing that we'll be doing in the next maybe 15-20 minutes. Okay. So a couple of things. So we'll suppose. So this is, let me kind of think over this. So first of all, we are going to make an assumption. The assumption is there is there is no mortality, right? So this is a simplifying assumption. Usually there will be mortality. Once again, if there is mortality, what will happen? For that, you have to enroll for the actual engineering course, right? But here we are going to show you a kind of a simplified version of that. Now, suppose this is the year, and by year I mean the policy year. Whenever the policy is issued, from that time period, the year is considered. So, for example, if a policy is issued on 7th of March 2024, the first policy year will end at 6th of March 2025, something like that, right? So this is policy year, and I'm putting, maybe let us consider a 10-year policy, right? So this is one, and I'm going to create 10 years. So while I do that, you will also get a flavor of, sort of CP2. You can also register for our CP2 course if you have not, if you want to appear for CP2 next diet. So that is also there. Anyways, so policy here. Now what we want to do is I want to put something called surrender rate or surrender factor. So this is surrender factor. What this surrender factor means is every year we are going to put some value, right? Or some surrender value would be kind of given. So that is the surrender factor. What is the surrender value that we are going to give, right? Usually it is per thousand or something like that. But maybe for our purpose, let us consider that per thousand, right? So I'll also write per thousand, right? So, and we are also, let us also assume, this is our assumption section. So there is no surrender in first 3 years. So you are not allowed to make any surrender. This the company does to recoup their initial expense, right? And any in Indian scenario also there is a lock-in period. I think that lock-in period is of 5 years, not 3 years. But for our example, we're going to kind of consider this. And what we the surrender value should be an increasing, kind of thing, and it should gradually mature into the maturity value, right? Or the final sum assured. So let us kind of think something like that, like we'll put 25 year, right? And then we are going to increase this by 10 every year, right? Or maybe yeah, maybe 50, right? So 40, then this would be 55, then this would be 70, this would be 85, and I think this would be 100. So maybe here we'll put manually 90, and this would be 100, right? So that also give us the assumption that our maturity value, okay, this is our maturity value is 100,000, right? So this is our maturity value, which is 100,000, like that is 1 lakh, right? So I have written that as well. Now the most important thing, lapse rate, right? So lapse rate, obviously we are not allowing any surrender, right, in the first years, but that does not mean the policy will not lapse. So let us consider the first year, the lapse rate is 15%, then it is 8%, then no, then it is 12%, then it is 10%, then it is 5%, and it stays 5%, right, for the remainder of the year. Okay, as I expected, mortality rate would be 0, right? So model rate will be 0. Now, if you can't think of something like that in Excel, and you are still a qualified actually seeing this video, right? If you can't think of something like what I'm going to do, then you are not a qualified actually. You just have a paper certificate, because this should be very, very easy for you. You should be that confident. Right now it is 2 a.m. and I'm doing this, and I'm very, very sleepy, but I'm still doing this. So you can understand the confidence that I have in completing this, right? Otherwise, I'd not be doing this. So that is very, very important. You have to understand how it works to be good in your job. So this is, I'm assuming this is 0, right? And then finally, because it is 0, we are not going to use that. I've just put it for the sake of it. And what else can be there? I'm thinking over it. So there is the lapse rate we have considered the surrender factor, which is the surrender value that we are going to give, which will be multiplied by 1,000. And finally, it would be 1 lakh, right? The end of the fine last year, if a surrender happens, then it will be then 1 lakh, which is equal to the maturity value, right? Because the person has hold the policy for that much time. If he is or she is surrendering, then he should get that benefit because he has stayed with the company for that much time, right? And I'm just thinking of if there is anything else that I've missed. Lapse rate is there. You can also think of something like that, right? And the lapse rate is there, surrender rate is there. Yeah, I think we have considered. Now you can also add another factor like whether it is prudent, like if this 15% would be made more prudent or not. For that, for our purpose, we are not considering this, right? Now we have to create something which is called lives, right? So for our purpose, let us start with maybe so at the start, and then this is lives. When I talk about lives, this would be your start because at the start of the year there will be one life, and at the end of the year there will be some other lives, right? So this would be, I'm calling this year end, okay? And then we are going to calculate the surrender value here. So maybe write surrender value here. Okay. So obviously this figure would be 1, right? This figure would be 1. Now we are assuming that there will be 15% kind of lapse. There is no mortality, so I'm not considering the mortality, right? So this would mean that we are going to have only 15%, right? 15% of the people would be alive. So this means this, right? That should be multiplied by this is a 15, this is a percentage figure, right? So that would be 1 minus this figure by 100, right? So this is 0.85. So number of people who are alive at the end of the year end or who are in the books, they are alive obviously, and they have surrendered. So number of people who are in the company books are from 1, they have reduced to 0.85. Now if the number of people in the portfolio is 100, then this would be 85, right? So that's how it goes, right? Now maybe we can make this 100 as well, right? So maybe for you it will be easier to understand. Then this would be same, right? The number of people who is in the company books at the end of there would be same as the number of people who would be company book at the start. Now, what would be the number of people would be in the company books, right? So then 10% of those this people would be kind of would not be alive or would not be in the company books, right? And I keep on saying alive and alive, right? That is not the case. So that would be 12 by 100, right? So that is 74.8. And then I think I can drag this. Let me check this, right? Yeah, so this is 74.8. This is coming out to be 67.32, where this rate is being used, right? So this is how we calculate the lives. Now, this is very, very different from what you have seen in the book, right? Sorry. So while speaking, let me just finish this page, right? So I just wanted it to come in a manageable format, right? So we start with this many lives. At the end of the year, we are getting 85. Then we are starting the next year with 85. Some amount of lapse is happening. Mind you, if there would be mortality, this calculation would be entirely changed because then comes the question of which is happening first, whether death is happening first or lapse is happening first, right? Is the concept of dependent decrement or independent decrement. These are called decrements because the number of lives are decreasing, right? So that's how it is. Now I think I hope you remember that and that you have kind of read in CD5 or CM1, right? Now this sort of calculation is not done. If you see CD5 or CM1, the surrender value calculation is not given. Even in SP2, the calculation is given, but that is an entirely rubbish calculation that is given. Nobody uses that, and that is based on the reserve formula or depending on expert judgment. There is only the principle of surrender that is given, and questions are asked from principle of surrender. By the way, if you have not kind of, if you are appearing for SP2, you can also register for our SP2 course as well. And so you can see it like this is the level of knowledge that I have, and you can learn something there. Once again, coming back to this topic, right? So the first year, what is the surrender value? Because there is a lock-in period, we do not have any surrender value, right? So we do not want to give any surrender value. And how many people would be given the, so this is the amount, the the surrender value would be given, right? And how many people would be getting the surrender value? The people who are lapsing, right? The people who are lapsing, they would be getting the surrender value. How many people are lapsing the policy here? So the number of people that are lapsing the policy is this, right? So 15 people are lapsing the policy, they should get the surrender value, but are they going to get it? They're not going to get it, right? They're not going to get it. So this is how it is. So that is going to be 0, right? Next year, what is the number of people? What is the surrender value? First of all, the surrender value that is given is 0, right? How many people are kind of alive right now? So the number of people that are alive right now is 85 at the start of the year, right? Now you cannot apply this 15 here, right? Because earlier the number of people was 100, and that's why this 85 work, right? That's why I multiply 15. But you can see how many people has lapsed. That is 85 minus 74, right? So that's why the calculation of life was important, right? This minus this, right? So this is how it is. Or in the previous calculation also, how it you can make it better is you can write this, which is the number of lives at the start, and this is the number of lives at the end. Once again, this is happening because we have a simplified assumption of the modality. The dependent decrements do not apply, right? And that is the reason we are able to do this in this manner. Similarly, now we can drag this, right? So once again, just to explain the surrender factor or surrender value, that the amount that we are going to pay is 0 in this case because there is a 3-year lock-in. And now this is 74, this is 67, right? And that's how you are going to get the, now this many people has lapsed, right? So and you are going to pay this amount. In this case, that is 0, right? Now we are going to see the surrender value coming, right? So I'm going to just copy and paste this, right? And yeah, so this is the surrender value that you are giving. Now, I told you that this number is per thousand, right? So if you have to kind of calculate the actual number, right, then this should be multiplied with 1,000, right? Otherwise, you are going to get a lower number. So this is 1,000, right? Let me just kind of drag. Yeah, the formula is same, right? So this formula is kind of, this formula is also same. So you can easily drag this, right? So this is the surrender value that you will be paying at the end of the year 10, assuming there are 100 people. So that is also an assumption. Our portfolio, right, starts with 100 people, right? Now, if you assume that there is no premium, nothing, right? Then you, and if you have an kind of thought process about what is the discount rate, right? You can also calculate the reserve value, right? So let us do that as well. Maybe let us put our disc rate here, right? And so this is the disk rate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a random number between 1 to 10, and that would be my discount rate. So we're just making an assumption, right? So maybe let us put a number between 5 to 8. Stay as close to the sorry, is this, I missed something? I think I put full stop. Yeah. So this is what I'm going to do, 5 to 8, because that is how the India's current scenario is. So this is how it is. It has, okay, somehow it has got 6. This is not what I wanted. So maybe this, and I'm going to put this, right? So that's, now I put values here. It is kind of 8, 7, 6. In this way, it is kind of going on, right? Now let me put or calculate the cumulative discount factor, right? Or yeah, so let me calculate the cumulative, or maybe we can calculate the discount factor and then we'll go to the cumulative discount factor, right? So that it is easier for you to understand. Also, this is exactly how an actual software calculates, right? First, it starts with the number of lives at the start, then it start goes with the number of lives at the end, right? They would not use the assurance factor or annuity factor even in the calculation of reserve. This is how the actual calculation goes on, right? Discount factor, right? And as I mentioned, this is just a figment of or a small portion of what we do in actual engineering. That is why it is a kind of 6 hour course, right? So you can see how maybe for many people this calculation might be very difficult to follow, or they are seeing this for the first time, right? But this is how the actual software works. Imagine you are working in that software, you have no knowledge of that software. As a fresher, you have entered the industry without knowledge, and you are thinking that why should I learn the software? I should learn the software in when I join a company. The question is whether the company will give you that chance, right? From the day one, that company will expect that you would be delivering something, and if you have this sort of knowledge, if you understand the principles behind actual software, understand the edge that it will give you over others. That's why I keep on saying that if you want to develop alpha, then video is the kind of destination for you. If you want to be develop your beta, then do whatever you are doing. Beta means whatever the market is doing, right? So that is your factor. So if you want to develop your beta, video obviously that we also cater to the beta public as well, right? But once again, alpha is alpha and beta is beta, right? That's why that there is a saying, "Jo baap baap hota hai aur beta beta hota hai." That's why it is called beta, right? So but if it depends, once again, it depends on you. If you show that you want to be alpha, then we'll be bringing course on that of alpha nature. If you show that you want to be beta, then we'll also only bring course of the beta nature, which will be the paper courses, right? That is easier for me. This sort of thing, I have to think over it. I have to, gather material resource, think how we can maybe for profit we have to figure out how we can show the profit screen and get access to a profit software, right? So these are very difficult and challenging things for us to do. But all this hassle would not be worth if you are not interested in this, right? So think over it. Keep thinking over that. Now, discount factor would be so this once again discounting will depend on when and at what point of time you are going to discount. For simplicity, I am going to think that you are calculating reserve at the start of the policy year, right? But if you are taking a particular date, then this discounting will change depending on how much discounting will is going to happen. We are making a simplified assumption that the reserve is calculated at the start of the policy year, right? So this would be 1 plus this divided by 100, right? And that raised to the power this, right? So which is the uh, kind of the number of years, policy years. So this is your individual discount rate. Once again, let me make it look slightly better. Now, how are you going to calculate the cumulative discount factor, right? Cumulative discount factor. Cumulative discount factor means that you are kind of discounting it to start of the policy year, right? Like I mentioned. So if you this cash flow, if you are multiplying with this, it is going to go to the start of the year, right? But if you are multiplying this cash flow with this, then also yeah, then also it is going to go to the kind of start of the year, right? So in that in but the problem sorry, so we have made a mistake here. We have to calculate the cumulative discount factor because this means that we are dividing whenever we are using this formula. This means that we are dividing everything by 8, right? So the discount, we are assuming constant discount rate, which is not the case, right? So that's why we cannot use that. In fact, in the unwind video, the last week's video, we have shown that this is the incorrect thing, right? You can't do that. And then we again made that mistake. So this is not how it is going to be. So what we have to do is we have to remove this, right? So we are going to create the discounting for only 1 year, right? So this is for the 1 year. For the next year, once again, so this that to the power, whenever we are using that power, that means we are assuming consistent or constant discount rate, which is not the case. So this is the individual discount rate. This means that the value of this at the start of the year would be obtained if you multiply this and this. Similarly, the value of the surrender value at the start of the year, which is at the start of the ninth year, would be obtained if you multiply this and this. Once again, our assumption here is reserve is calculated at policy year uh, one start, right? Start, and assumption is surrender benefit is given at end of the year. Okay, so this is our assumption. Surrender benefit, we have wrote incorrect spelling for benefit. Surrender benefit is given at the end of the year, right? So from the end of the year, you're coming to the start of the year. That is why it is discount factor. Now, if you want to calculate the discount factor properly, right? So then for the first one, there is no change, right? So that is the cumulative discount rate. But for the next one, then you have to multiply this with the previous one so that you come to the start of the policy year one, and this will account for the curve, right? The discount rate curve, because here it is a curve, it is not a consistent discount, it's not a flat line. That's why it is a curve, right? Now, if I kind of carry this forward, right? So this is how it is, right? So let me mark this or highlight this in a separate color so that I'll understand for a later stage. Similarly, the calculation that is going on here is different, right? And from here also the calculation is different. Here it's a consistent constant number. So I'm marking this in slightly different color. And then from this portion, the calculation is same, right? So that's why I've marked this so that I can understand, right? This is the cumulative discount factor. Now we have to calculate the surrender value. So, or not surrender value, we are going to call it reserve. Our assumption is there is no premium, nothing, right? So otherwise those would also be kind of calculated here, right? But here we are assuming there is no premium. So reserve at uh, policy, reserve at policy year one, once again at the start, right? So reserve at policy year one start, right? And that would be given by the surrender value, which is nothing in this case, and in this case. So you can see whenever also if there is no surrender value, it's not that you have not done the calculation. This is proper modeling, right? So that there is nothing you are missing, right? So now once again I'll make it look slightly better. Maybe this, and the final. So this is the reserve at every year, right? This is the reserve at the at every year. So the final reserve, right? Which you can call surrender reserve, final surrender, right? Reserve, final surrender reserve would be sum of all of this, right? So what I've shown you is a combination of what I have done in Sparkle 1, where I've shown the calculation of reserve, calculation of asset share, calculation of lapse profit, unwind, discount rate, neutral, risk neutral valuation, all those calculations, right, are shown. So that is Sparkle 1. And actual inner engineering, where how the actual software works, actual software do not use annuity factor, assurance factor, right? Now, this is how it is, right? So, yeah, as I mentioned, I'm not going to save this file, right? So don't ask me for this file. If you are a proper actuary, if you're a true actuary, then you will be able to replicate this file with ease, right? And if you have listened to this entire video, so you can replicate this file with ease. And obviously at different point of time, you can stop the video, rewatch the video, you can take the screenshot and recreate this file to understand the process yourself. If you are not, right, if you are not interested in that, then there is no point for you to kind of replicate this video. So either way, whether you are proper actuary, whether a paper actuary, this Excel file is irrelevant for you, right? So that's it. I hope you understood the process, how the calculation happens. Now, one extra bonus information. Do you know that this calculation that is happening, this calculation is not created by the insurance industry or the insurance regulator. This calculation is copied from someone. Yes, this calculation is copied from someone. Now, do you know from where is calculated, or from where it is copied? So actually this calculation is copied from Basel regulation. Basel regulation applied to banks, right? And there is something called credit risk. So in order to calculate the credit risk, the banks has to calculate the exposure amount, then the probability of default, and also there is another percentage. I think that's called the loss amount, right? So the bank multiplies this three, which gives you the exposure, like the total amount the bank is going to, the total amount at risk for the credit risk. So that is the credit risk equivalent amount, right? So based on that formula, banks, insurance company has taken this formula from the, from the Basel regulation, has created this, right? If you have studied maybe SP6, or I don't know if you have studied SP9 maybe, then you probably know which formula I'm talking about, right? So in that case, the exposure, in this case, the exposure amount is given by this, right? Exposure amount is given by this. This can be the, you can consider this is the default rate, right? This is the default rate, and how many people are kind of lapsing, or in that case, what was the loss ratio, right? The loss ratio, like how many people are actually going to kind of lose. So that can be considered by this rate, like the lives at start and lives at end. So this is, the insurance industry has taken reference from the Basel regulation, and this is how they have calculated, and kind of the actual software are using this formula to kind of calculate the result, right? Or the surrender value. So this is how. So I have shown you the calculation of the surrender value. Then I've gone one step extra and also shown you the calculation of the surrender reserve. Now I know this is a big video, right? This is a big video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this video into two parts, and both the part will be kind of released on the same time. But just for those people who are not interested, uh, you know, uh, they would probably not be seeing that. But if you are interested, then you can see that, see the entire part, right? So I don't want to create a long video so that people would be, initially they would have that thought process that I don't want to see a 1 hour video. So, anyways, once again, if you want to be a proper actuary, that should not be a hindrance. But these days, like I mentioned, I was shocked with the lack of enthusiasm, because I felt, had this been me at my initial, when I was just starting the actuary, the amount of people who tried to kind of put you down for not knowing profit or any actual software, that would have kind of forced me to buy any course, and that would be an investment for me. But when I see people thinking in this manner, I'm really sad and shocked that, yeah, this is how the generation degradation has happened. Every generation is supposed to surpass its previous generation, but India, the degradation is happening. Every generation is 10 levels below the previous generation. And I think it started from 5 6 years after our generation, 5 6 years after our generation. Now the degradation is so severe that I find it very difficult to speak to someone at kind of at their maturity level. So yeah, I hope that situation will change. If that degradation is happening, then somehow the upgradation will also happen. I hope that is going to be the case, right? Otherwise, this actual profession, which is such a noble profession, would not be so noble 5 years down the line. Anyways, next week's video would be on that person who has mentioned, like this is a distant future. So I'll make a video on that and show why it is not so distant, right? And I'll probably try to see if we can collect some proof on that, and we can create video on that, so that you also are aware that, yeah, this is the job scenario, and if I want to get paid in dollars, maybe, right, then my chance of getting to 1 CR would be much higher. Then I need to know this, because there the people may not be interested in your kind of paper knowledge, right? There the interview of you would happen based on your technical knowledge, which is this, right? So it's, once again, it's up to you. So please like, share this video with your friends, subscribe this channel like you are doing, and see you in future video.